Did you know that most SEO content today is either written by AI tools that just regurgitate each other's content, or written by inexperienced VAs that don't know what they're doing, or you're just buried by the 10% of websites that capture 90% plus of all of the traffic on the internet? But if you know how to structure your content the right way, you can turn your site into an evergreen traffic machine that drives real business outcomes. And you're not the only one that's frustrated by this. Trust me, our clients were too, but then we showed them this framework. Over the last 12 to 16 months, we've used our product-led SEO framework to drive tens of thousands of qualified visitors for our clients every single month. And today, I'll be showing you exactly how to structure your SEO content so that it ranks and drives real business outcomes. If you take one thing from this video, remember this: great SEO content is written for both humans and algorithms alike. It answers the search intent better than any other search result, builds authority over time, and it positions your brand as the go-to resource within your space. Now, the framework I'm going to be sharing with you today works because it focuses on these four components: deep alignment with your business goal, authentic first-hand insights that show your target audience that you know what you're talking about, content structures that match what searchers are looking for, and lastly, the right signals that tell Google and LLMs that they should trust you. Now, if you're the kind of marketer that's tired of vague advice and you want a proven system, that's exactly who this video and system is built for. And at the end of the video, I'll show you how to take this one step further using our free product-led SEO framework resource that you can download below. And I'm going to be giving you this resource that we actively use for clients for free, because once you apply this, you will never go back to guessing again when it comes to your SEO program. This exact framework is what we've used to drive millions of dollars of revenue for our clients, and it proves that the ROI of SEO far exceeds any other channel when it's done right. And now, if you're serious about building an SEO channel or engine that drives real business growth, you should subscribe. We publish deep dives like this every single week. Before you even start writing any SEO content or creating any SEO pages, there's one important question that founders and marketers need to think about, and that is, what are you optimizing for? Do you just purely want to drive eyeballs, or do you want to drive conversions as well? Because once you understand that, this entire strategy component will make a lot of sense, and very quickly. And so what I mean by that is, how do these keywords relate to your product? Because at the end of the day, every single thing that you should be doing from an SEO standpoint should be driven by your product or service so that you can attract your target audience and start driving conversions. So let's jump into the product-led SEO framework so I can explain what I mean. So you'll notice that there's a couple different stages of awareness over here. There is problem unaware all the way through to product aware. And so what that traditionally means is top, middle, bottom of funnel traffic. And so what you want to do is think through the same way that Freshdesk, they've basically built a page that's ranking extremely well for customer messaging platform. They're driving approximately 1,500 visitors per month and $15,000 worth of search traffic on a monthly basis. But the way they've used content is extremely intelligent. They've written content on their competitors where they're driving approximately 1,200 visitors per month and approximately $17,000 worth of search traffic just to this one page. But then they go really high up in the funnel and they talk about customer communication as a guide as well, where they drive 726 visitors per month at $1,900 worth of search traffic. So there's one thing to catch over there, and that is that the traffic value goes down the higher up you go in the funnel. And the reason for that is because people higher up in the funnel, they don't know if they've got a problem. Whereas if you target your competitors or even talk about the exact keyword that your audience searches for when they're looking for a solution, that traffic is really high intent because those folks are ready to convert. So the next stage, when you've thought through your product-led SEO framework and you've thought through some phrases that you want to cover, the next stage is to think through and to screen your keywords properly. So what I mean by that is there's two stages. You need to cover stage one, which is thinking through the relevance and intent of the keywords for your audience. So for Zendesk, it wouldn't really make sense to cover a CRM or software for auto body shops. That doesn't really make sense for them. What makes sense for them is that their audience is searching for, which is customer messaging. And the the next thing that they need to think through is the difficulty plus volume plus traffic value. So to help you make sense of this, let's jump into their FreshBooks alternative post and I can explain all these. So keyword difficulty is on a scale from 0 to 100. Closer to 100, more difficult. Closer to 0, easier. But there's a lot of nuance over here because Zendesk is a huge company. They've got a domain reputation themselves of about 93, and domain reputation is on a scale from 0 to 100 on a logarithmic scale. So if you've got competitors like Zendesk competing for the same keywords, when you're just starting out, you may not be able to rank for that keyword even though it's showing 0 difficulty. So there's a lot of nuance and a lot of analysis that goes into that process. But the next step, assuming you've covered that, is the search volume. Now Zendesk needs to optimize for a mass audience because they're selling software that has a lifetime value of maybe mid 5 figures. So they need a lot of volume in order to build a big business. But if you're enterprise, you can get away with search terms that get 20-30 searches per month because just one deal goes through and you've got a 7-figure lifetime value potentially. But if you're building something consumer, you need to go for mass volume, maybe even more than what Zendesk has covered over here. Maybe you need to cover keywords that get 5,000 searches per month. Think about it this way: if you're selling Nike shoes, you want to be attracting 5 to 10,000 visitors to your page on a monthly basis, because if you've got a 1 to 3% conversion rate, that's how you make sense of the numbers when it comes to SEO. So the next component is the traffic value, and the way to equate that is to look at the cost per click equivalent for the relevant keywords. Now this means how much would other marketers pay to show up for these same terms in Google and Bing if they were to pay for the rankings as opposed to organic. So generally, rule of thumb is anything above 0 is good, but if you want to take it a step further, anything above 50 cents is even better because that's valuable traffic. So when you take a look at all of the traffic that these guys are driving to this one page, they're driving about $17,000 worth of search traffic because they've layered it across ranking for 88 different keywords at really good CPCs. So they're playing volume and CPC. So now in an ideal world, you've figured out the keywords that you want to go for, and I just wanted to share some quick advice on how you can structure your content so that it will rank in 2025 and beyond. So the first thing is to add unique insights into your content. That means avoid AI regurgitated content, right? If you use a one-click, one-shot AI tool that's just generating a full article within 30 seconds, you can bet that they're just scraping other pages and building that content out. That means word for word, copying their links, their content, their stats, everything like that. So if you see 10 articles just like that showing up on Google, that is something that Google and Bing are attacking very, very quickly. They're getting rid of all the AI spam that exists on their pages right now. Now, the next thing is to avoid an inexperienced VA. And so what I mean by this is that we've seen these scenarios where VAs will produce 400 to 500 articles over the course of a year and nothing ends up ranking. So at the end of that 1 year period, companies will have paid the full-time salary for that VA, wasted a year, and just seen their competitors skyrocket past them. That's a quick mistake to avoid. Do not work with inexperienced VAs. There are a lot of components that go into a successful SEO program beyond just content, and a VA will not understand that. The last thing I want to leave you with is when you're building your keyword list, focus on topical authority. Depth matters. If you're just covering 2 to 3 keywords in a big topic like customer messaging, you will not rank effectively. And so according to Ahrefs, companies that have a comprehensive topic coverage see 2x higher traffic growth as opposed to companies that just covered a few different keywords within a given topic. So the key question for you to think about when it comes to content strategy is to think about how well you're mapping your keywords for your relevant product or service, how you're generating that content, and how in depth are you going into that content cluster, because the combination of all 3 of those components will dictate your results and your success when it comes to SEO. So that being said, the next component we're going to be taking a look at is how do you cover your competitors effectively and take a look at what they're doing so that you can replicate it on your pages. The goal is not to replicate one for one, it's just to take a look at what the status quo is so that you can beat them at their own game. So now that you've got your strategy in place, the next step is to take a look at your competitors and to see what is already working for them, because your goal is not to exactly replicate what they've done, but it's more importantly to take a look at the level of efficacy and work that's required. So taking a look at Zendesk as an example, you'll notice that they've got a really good title over here, and they've got exact numbers over here, and it's really aligned with their target audience. They're giving them questions and templates, so they're generally trying to be very helpful, right? The next thing is to take a look at how many headers do they have on place. You'll notice that they've got an H2 over here, H3, then they're chopping it up, they're adding more H2s, they're adding images, really important insights. The next thing is to take a look at how they're using linking properly. So you can use this cool extension called Check My Links, and you can very easily see how many links they've added. It'll highlight all the links, and you can see if it's an internal link, an external link. Both are really important. You don't want to either overly index on internal links. You also don't want to overly index on external links. You don't want to pass on all of your authority to your competitors or other people in the space as well. And so the next thing is to understand true search intent. And what I mean by that is to take the target keyword that you're competing for and search for it on Google. So let's just do this in practice. Search this on Google. You'll notice that the top article that's ranking is 50 CSAT survey questions and tips. Everybody else has covered something similar, right? Like top tips to customer satisfaction surveys. So what I'm understanding over here from the top results is that something that Google is trying to emphasize is a list of the top components or tips, etc., that will make it helpful for the reader. So your content should also take that angle when you're writing. Lastly, going back to that component that I mentioned about Zendesk ranking for that 0 difficulty keyword, you'll want to do the same thing when you're looking through your keywords as well. Take a look at the domain authority of the pages that are ranking in the top 10. Even though it may have a 0 difficulty keyword, you'll notice that it may be overly indexed on pages that are very established or websites that are very established, right? Over here, you've got Zendesk with a 93 domain rating. You've got SurveyMonkey with a 93 domain rating, HubSpot 93 domain rating, SurveyMonkey 93 domain rating. So what I'm understanding by looking at this page is that all of the top pages have a 90 plus domain rating. So if you're just coming in and you've got a domain rating of maybe 5 to 10, 15, 20, you will likely find it very, very difficult to rank for this keyword. So one thing that we do with every single client when we're doing their keyword research is we take a look at what kind of search intent Google and Bing are rewarding, and we think through if we can do the same with our content. And you'll find it surprising how few brands actually analyze search intent, and that goes back to the example of like the AI regurgitated content or the VA that's inexperienced. They will likely not do it at this level, but the ones who do the search intent analysis for each and every given keyword will dominate their product or service category. And did you know that the top ranking pages with intent aligned content receive 3.5 times more clicks and backlinks as compared to those that don't? And the reason is because they're aligning with what people are looking for. So when they're ranking in the top 10, other websites will link to them as well because they see them as an authority as well. So that being said, let's dive now into the content creation process and how you can create content that will win in 2025 and beyond. Now let's talk about content creation, and let's specifically talk about structuring your page so that it's impossible not to rank and impossible for your readers not to engage with your content. So to do that, let's jump into our content that ranks framework. So the first thing you'll notice is that keyword optimization. What that means is trying to include your target keyword in the title, the meta description for high CTR, because it's extremely relevant to what the person is searching for. And you also want to cover related topics and entities. So even if you're just covering customer surveys, you may want to talk about it in a broader scope. How does it apply into the broader company and their workflows, their operations, etc.? Don't just focus on keywords. The next component is audience engagement. That means answering all of the frequently asked questions that they may have, all of the questions that you think will likely be helpful for them, right? This is about going above and beyond what your competitors are focused on. The next component is to focus on fresh insights. So that means take a look at your sales conversations, take a look at your conversations with leads, prospects, users, etc. What are they talking about? What are their pain points? What do they need help for? And how can you solve for that in the content so that you can drive leads and conversions from your content and make it really relevant to what they're looking for? You can also take a look at forums. You can also take a look at YouTube. You can also take a look at what people also ask. The next component is you need to present a clear point of view. Don't just regurgitate what everybody else is talking about. You need to have a clear positioning that's distinct from everybody else, that tells what your company is solving and how you're uniquely set up to solve the problems of your audience. And the next component is to make sure that your content has decent depth. That means cite studies, cite research, cite statistics, cite stuff that Google and LLMs just cannot do that, and your competitors are too lazy to do. Make sure you match the search intent that we talked about earlier and serve the human first. Do not focus on the algorithm first. Focus on the human. How can you make content that is genuinely helpful? And the last component is to make it visually engaging. Can you add images? Can you add videos? Can you add formatting, tables, etc., bolding text, italicizing text, adding in links, anything to make the content pop? So here's a question to ask before you publish any content. Would you bookmark your page and share it with a peer? If the answer is no, please take a moment to go deeper. And be honest, how many times have you hit publish with knowing that it's not your best work? That hesitation means that your readers will feel it too. We've spent hours tweaking content that still didn't rank, and it turns out it wasn't the writing. It was more so the structure, and that's what changed it. For example, did you know that in a 2024 study that was conducted by HubSpot, 73% of people said that a high quality experience on page influences how much they trust a brand? So keeping that in mind, focus on creating pages and content that your audience will resonate with and will drive value for them. By the way, if this video is helpful, please hit subscribe. We cover advanced SEO, inbound lead generation, and content strategy weekly on our channel. So that being said, let's jump into the next stage, which is the final stage, and that is focusing on being and showing that you are an authority. So you know your job actually is not over when you hit publish. In fact, what you do next could be the big difference between ranking at position 10 and ranking at position 1. So to help you make sense of how you can build the right authority signals, let me share with you our framework on how to do that. So there's a couple steps over here. The first one being, make sure that your page is included on your sitemap. You cannot imagine how many companies make this critical mistake of their sitemap not being set up properly. And so the sitemap is a document, an XML file that search engines will crawl through to see what pages have been updated, edited, or published recently. And if your pages are not going on that sitemap, they will be very difficult to be found for search engines, because that document is specifically created to make it easy for search engines to crawl through and visit your pages. So that's the first big component. Next thing is to take your page and submit it for indexing on Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools. Let them know you've created a new page or content so that they can visit it, understand it, and make it be shown in search engine result pages. Next component is to drive direct traffic. Send the page to your friends, family, colleagues, people at your company. Start to drive direct traffic so that you can show search engines that people are visiting your pages without them even ranking you. One thing you can do after that is to make sure that your page is linked to from other pages on your site. Aim for 2 to 3 internal links from the rest of your web pages to this new page so that you can make it easy for search engines to crawl through those pages, find the internal links, and then visit this new page as well. The next two components are about promoting on social. So this means sharing it in your newsletter, socials, etc. Get the word out and start driving more direct traffic so that you can give the right signals to search engines. And lastly, it's more about thinking through how to go about building backlinks to this page. So as an example, going through this keyword for customer feedback surveys that we looked at earlier, you'll notice that all of the top ranking pages have backlinks. SurveyMonkey has 88, Qualtrics has 154 referring domains, and HubSpot has 412. But the one thing to focus over here is that it's not all about quantity, it's also about quality. The reason why SurveyMonkey is likely ranking at the top is because they've got better content, better aligned with search intent, and their backlinks are likely better as well. So it's not all about quantity when it comes to backlinks, it's also about quality. That being said, a quick mindset shift when it comes to publishing content is to think of your content as an active asset. So it's not just something that you post and hope for the best, right? Like there's a recent study that's done by Ahrefs that found that web pages and content that has strong backlink profiles are 5.1x more likely to rank as opposed to other competitors. So what you want to do is to treat each one of your posts and pages like a new launch instead of a checkbox. That one mindset shift will more than 10x your ROI on any SEO initiative. So now that you've learned how to create SEO content that ranks in 2025 and beyond, your next goal is to build topical authority within your space so that your market knows that your website is the go-to resource when they want to find information or look for potential solutions as well. Only a few companies will commit to this next stage of building topical authority, but the ones that do will win both the trust of Google and their buyers. Now we go even more in depth on this topic in our next video, which is avoiding the top 3 3 mistakes that most companies make, and how to actually increase your revenue through SEO as well as AI search. And I'll show you exactly how to take your web pages and turn them into a revenue machine for your business. If you want our battle-tested product-led SEO framework, check out the link in the description below. Join our newsletter for weekly SEO and growth insights. And here's the real secret. The way that you apply the product-led SEO framework is where 80% of your business results will come from. So click the next video and I'll show you how we do it for our clients.